7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, encendieron los motores, 1, ¡da despegue!
As the conference continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the Red Planet.
¡Qué impresionante!
And Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control. Coming up on 30 seconds in the flight, the RD-180 is throttling down as expected. Engine response looks good. And Mach 1 Atlas 5, now supersonic.
Supersónico en este momento, máxima Q, o sea, máxima resistencia aerodinámica, 1500 kilómetros por hora, 17 kilómetros de altitud.
The vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
Kilómetros por hora, 30 de altitud.
And passing 1 minute into flight, the RD-180 is throttling back up as expected. Engine response looks good.
Bueno, están desacelerando levemente los motores, es algo normal.
Speed and fuel injector pressures are responding well to demands on the engine. Standing by for SRB burnout shortly. And we have burnout on all 4 SRBs. Burnout pressure signatures look good. Standing by for SRB
Los boosters están terminando su quemada, o sea, tal cual como estaba previsto. Bueno, se separaron los boosters.
And we have good indication of SRB jettison of all 4 SRBs.
Bueno, los boosters están separados con seguridad.
Vehicle body rates are responding nominally at this time.
Todo normal en este momento.
And coming up on 2.5 minutes into flight,
the
RD-180 is slowing down slightly as expected. Engine response continues to look good. At this time, the vehicle is 50 miles in altitude, 85 miles downrange, traveling at 6,000 miles per hour.
6,000 kilómetros por hora, o están en prisas. Estoy acostumbrado a ver SpaceX.
The Centaur reaction control system is now pressurizing the flight levels. And just past 3 minutes into flight, the RD-180 is now throttling to maintain a constant 2.5 G acceleration limit for payload fairing jettison. Engine response and vehicle acceleration look good.
Bueno, tenemos una hermosa imagen de la separación de las
we have good indication of payload fairing jettison and Centaur forward load reactor deck jettison.
Y el reactor Centauro dice que también, que eso
está alimentando el cohete. Throttling back up to attain a 4.6 G acceleration. Engine response continues to look good.
Recordemos que la carga que estaba llevando este satélite tiene que soportar 80 Gs de vibraciones en el momento del despegue hasta ahora, ¿no?
Standing by for BECO shortly.
Bueno, dice que en cualquier momento
BECO is the call for booster engine.
And we have booster engine cut off.
El booster lo cortan, se le llaman BECO. Ahí cortaron y separación del booster.
And we have good indication of Atlas Centaur separation.
Bueno, la parte primaria del cohete, que es el Centauro, se separó correcto.
And we have the Mach 1. RL-10 operating parameters look good. Chamber pressures are stable.
Qué increíble cómo se ven las correcciones del motor para mantener la
This
trayectoria.
will be the first of 2 burns for today's mission. This first burn will be approximately 7 minutes in length.
Grillo, tuvimos que quitar tu comentario.
So, Mick, that's pretty exceptional footage there. That's live video. We will see that switch over shortly.
Recordemos de mantener el léxico y mantenernos dentro de los términos aceptables.
A beautiful liftoff. Fun to feel that rumble in the building here as we proceed towards orbit and then towards Mars destination.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great watching an on-time liftoff of the Atlas V with that a little over 2 million pounds of thrust. Cleared the tower in roughly 5 seconds.
2 millones de libras de empuje.
If you recall, that mission on the West Coast took about 17 seconds to get past the tower. So with those 4 solids today, this thing really got out of here and on its way. So as we hear from Jesse, everything's looking nominal and all vehicle parameters are within the design limits. And we're getting ready to come up on a main engine start for that first burn that Jesse was talking about.
Yeah, so recapping this countdown to Mars, the stations began to be filled up this morning just after midnight. Preparations, fuelings, powering up, all the way through that liftoff that happened. I think it wasn't precisely on time. I think you said it was like 10 milliseconds early. So it's pretty much dead on.
Yeah, dead on. This team does a great job. As I said, they're very focused, very disciplined. As Tori also said, courageous. They have done a lot of work to get us to this point today through this pandemic, changed how they did some of their work, made adjustments as needed, a lot of cleaning, a lot of things, a lot of wearing face masks, doing all kinds of things. And so this is an exciting time, not only for the JPL team in March 2020, but everybody.
Lo que le llaman la órbita, o sea, el encendido para escapar la órbita va a ser de acá a 2 horas, pero vamos a ver si eso lo vamos a tener y si es como estamos pensando.
Now that we are in the middle of the first burn, it's tough to make out, but that engine is lit and it's firing. So we are in motion. There you go. There's that animation we talked about.
The telemetry there as we switch to a TDRS compatible data format.
TDRS.
Overall telemetry quality is very good.
The space tracking system. So there you go. This is not an actual video, but this is an animation.
Esto que estamos viendo es una animación de lo que está sucediendo.
Seeing the engine on screen right now, we can see that the engine is lit, and that is driven by the data that says that the engine is truly lit.
Yeah, the launch vehicle continues to send telemetry to the launch team via the TDRS network, as you mentioned. And that allows them to continue to watch what's going on and make sure all their sequence of events meet their timeline. We continue on a nominal flight this morning. This first burn, as we heard earlier, will be about 6 minutes. This will get us into that park orbit around Earth, allow us to get on our way, and then get into that approximately 30-minute coast period that we're going to have.
8 minutes into flight, beginning to see the Centaur PU system balance out mass errors. Seeing very stable body rates in the Centaur.
So we've mentioned 5 teams at play, and although if you were watching, hopefully you got a chance to see this in person, if not on camera, it's easy to kind of say, oh, it's over, like job done, but all 5 of these teams still very much engaged, still very much focused, because there's a lot of work ahead as we proceed through this first burn, and then a coast phase, like you mentioned, Mick, and then a second burn, and then spacecraft separation and the acquisition of signal from March 2020. So a lot more coming up here. Mick, I know for Launch Services Program.
Dice que todavía falta mucho por pasar, ¿no? Hay 5 equipos trabajando en ello, entre la telemetría, los ajustes, las etapas. ¿Qué tal, Patricio? ¿Qué tal? Entonces, dice que una de las cosas que va a pasar es que, bueno, hay 2 utilizaciones de motores, como estamos viendo, esta es la primera de esta etapa, antes de la separación de lo que es el Mars 2020, que es la parte delantera del vehículo, ¿no?
Help define those requirements, and then we go out and procure a vehicle from a commercial partner. In this case, it was the Atlas 541 for the Mars 2020 mission that was needed for performance, right? As you and I have talked over the last several days, Josh, one of the things that was important for us to look at was that performance, to be able to get Mars 2020 onto that transfer orbit into solar orbit to intercept Mars in 7 months. It's kind of analogous to a football game, right? With a quarterback trying to throw a pass downfield. You need a quarterback with a lot of performance who can get that ball down there where it needs to be, so the receiver can intercept that. In our case, 7 months later.
There you go. Yeah, it's the longest football pass ever. The Earth is the quarterback, the Atlas is the quarterback's arm, Perseverance is the football, and Mars is the receiver.
That's exactly right.
And what we also talked about is that technically, you could launch to Mars at any time if you had a rocket that was powerful enough. But this is the launch period every 26 months or so, as we've talked about, that makes the most sense because you require the least amount of energy to get to Mars. Because it takes a lot to get there. Obviously, like the Atlas 541 is a workhorse.
Yeah, as Tori said, it's their dominator.
There you go.
I love that name for the Atlas 541. But we heard Jim Bridenstine, our NASA administrator, tell us that if we didn't make this launch period, we would be down for roughly 26 months.
Right? Tough.
So the period started July 17th and goes to August 15th. Today, July 30th, was one of those launch opportunities that we had. We had a 2-hour window, and within that window, we had several opportunities. 25, actually. Yeah. 25 opportunities. We launched at the beginning of the window on our first opportunity.
Si es una globo humanitaria, con mucho gusto. Si no es nada relacionado con el canal, lamentablemente no lo podemos transmitir.
JPL, LSP, and ULA did a lot of work to pick out those target sets and figure out where we need to be. So they've done a great job. We'll see how this mission continues.
Sí, la hora que poníamos de inicio 11:30 era la hora de tiempo universal coordinado, UTC. Lamento muchísimo, Daniel, el tema. El video de todas maneras va a quedar subido en nuestro canal. Puedes llegar a verlo nuevamente. La cámara en vivo aparentemente no tiene disponible la transmisión o no la quiere mostrar por si hay algo secreto o de tecnología. Vuelvo al tema de las horas. Cuando publicamos una hora, nosotros aclaramos de dónde es la hora. En este caso, cuando hicimos el anuncio en nuestro canal de comunidad de la hora de avanzamiento, aclaramos perfectamente que la hora era, empezamos la transmisión 8:15, hora de Montevideo, o si no, 11:15 UTC. Esa UTC quiere decir tiempo universal coordinado, para que cualquiera que esté en cualquier parte del mundo pueda obtener su hora local fácilmente. Es fácil, ponen la hora, ponen UTC y ponen el lugar donde están en Google, y Google automáticamente les da el horario suyo en que va a hacer la transmisión. Mil disculpas si no se entendió eso, Daniel.
On time from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station at 7:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Incredible. After the rocket took flight, it separated from the first stage and was then boosted into orbit by the Centaur's second stage. Perseverance is now preparing for a second burn that will put it on a trajectory toward Mars. That's just incredible to say. It gives me goosebumps.
It really is. And we're so excited about that as well. And while we wait for that second burn, hang in there with us because we got a lot of exciting coverage to go. We're going to welcome in...
Estamos a 13 minutos del lanzamiento, ya está en órbita el cohete, y va a haber un segundo encendido de esta etapa para poder hacer lo que es la trayectoria a Marte, o sea, el escape de la órbita terrestre, ¿no?
Because Derek was here on set, we're just having a good time talking about this launch, which I got to start off with that, Derek. Your first time seeing a launch in person, what'd you think?
I mean, what can you say? I have nothing to compare it to, but it was awesome, something I will never forget, and I definitely want to be invited back. So if you guys can make that happen, I mean, just so amazing to
see. You did a great job explaining physics. What did it feel like? Kind of walk me through as you were watching and experiencing it.
Well, it's like all the physics goes out the window a little bit. It's a very visceral...
Esta persona que está hablando, Daniel, le hemos visto antes que es quien hace todas las explicaciones técnicas del vuelo del helicóptero. Realmente es increíble escucharlo. No creo que hoy aporte más nada de lo que ya dijimos, pero de todas maneras digo, les recomiendo buscar algunos de sus videos.
Well, the Perseverance is going to do a lot of great science. So I'm excited, for example, that it's going to cache samples that we're going to bring back. You know, super excited that we're actually going to...
Bueno, está contando lo que ya dijimos también, de que están repitiendo, están haciendo tiempo. Van a recoger muestras, van a colocar muestras que llevan para allá de un cohete, de un cometa que trajo rocas que ya saben que son de Marte. ¿Cómo saben que esas rocas son de Marte? Es interesante saber esto. Las rocas y los pedazos esos de roca marciana han sido traídos por alguna explosión de Marte que las ha sacado al espacio, y eso ha derretido la roca y ha capturado micro burbujas de atmósfera marciana dentro. Eso han sido trasladadas con miles, ellos calculan que 60.000 años, creo, y en un cometa han llegado y han caído en la Tierra. ¿Cómo saben que esa atmósfera que es de Marte? Justamente porque esa microatmósfera que está capturada la analizan en el laboratorio y la comparan con lo que le dan las mediciones de Marte, y cuando hay un ajuste exacto, bueno, pueden saber de que perfectamente son marcianas. Lo que están haciendo es devolverlas a Marte para poder calibrar los instrumentos que lleva el rover, el Perseverance, y para eso las van a colocar en el suelo marciano de nuevo. Luego esa muestra y las muestras que tienen al lado las van a recoger en el rover para que en un futuro poder traerlas a la Tierra y analizar ambas nuevamente en un laboratorio en la Tierra. ¿Cuándo va a ser eso? Bueno, están calculando que dicen decenas de años, puede ser 10 años, 20 años, no lo saben, cuando tengan la tecnología y la nave para poder hacerlo, ¿no? Pero es increíble lo que están planificando, ¿no?
I mean, you have liquid water for, I don't know how many, half a billion or billion years. On Earth, that was enough to create life. So, the guess is that's not a unique thing, right? I mean, the scientific hypothesis is you run that enough times, it's bound to lead to life again in other circumstances.
Dr. Derek Muller, we really appreciate you being here, YouTube creator of the channel.
Grillo pregunta si el helicóptero se maneja desde tierra. Sí y no. Se maneja desde tierra, sí, pero no en el momento. Lo que se hace es autónomo. Se dan los comandos de qué es lo que quieren que haga, hacia dónde quiere que vaya y todo lo demás. Y él tiene sensores, tiene un montón de sensores. Desde inclinación, altitud, aceleraciones, mapeo. Entonces con eso él puede orientarse y dirigirse autónomamente y hacer las instrucciones que se le mandan. No se puede hacer directamente desde la Tierra por el retraso que hay de los 40 minutos, o sea, 20 minutos de ida y 20 minutos de vuelta demora la señal de radio en llegar a Marte. Entonces es imposible manejarlo en vivo.
We've started our journey to Mars. Can you tell me how you are feeling?
Wow, it's a great day. We're all so excited and to get started in this.
Es el director de ciencia planetaria del laboratorio de propulsión al jet de los Estados Unidos, este chico.
That's great. Now,
dice que están todos realmente increíbles, enloquecidos.
Almost on the path to Mars, if you will. The launch vehicle has done great so far. Our partners at ULA are just fantastic, and we're very happy to be working with them and for them to give us this boost so far. But we still have to have another burn of our upper stage. We have to pass through the night side or the shadow of the Earth, come out on the other side and find the sun and power up, and then establish contact with the spacecraft.
En este momento, el cohete que está del lado donde no le da el sol, en este momento está orbitando el planeta. Cuando lleguen a la otra mitad del planeta, cuando vuelvan a estar el sol, dice que allí es donde van a hacer el segundo encendido del motor para hacer el escape de la órbita terrestre, ¿no? Para dirigirse a Marte.
All right, thanks, Raquel. And as you mentioned, there are numerous scientific studies and technology demonstrations on Perseverance. Some of these are directly preparing us to one day send humans to Mars. One in particular.
Bueno, dice que esto es lo que están haciendo justamente para preparar la llegada de los humanos a Marte, que va a suceder.
Well, you know, sometimes here at the... Well, that's all right. Well, that's all right. It's a Britney Spears style mic, you know. So, I don't know if that'll work fine. We can hear it. Yeah, thanks for making the adjustment there. So, Jeff, this is an incredible piece of technology here, this MOXIE, right? So tell us, what is it and why is it important?
Well, MOXIE stands for Mars Oxygen in-situ resource utilization experiment. That's kind of a mouthful, so we grab a few letters out of there and just call it MOXIE. And I think the name MOXIE has
Está hablando de que tienen un experimento a bordo de que va a estudiar el tema del oxígeno en Marte y cómo poder generar oxígeno. Marco Rojas nos pregunta cómo se ubica el helicóptero si no hay GPS en Marte. Es una buena pregunta. Tiene acelerómetros, ¿no? Tiene cámaras hacia el piso también con el cual puede fotografiar el lugar donde despega y compararlo para el aterrizaje. Eso es una cosa muy común que hace no hay cualquier dron comercial de los que se utilizan para hacer fotografía aérea semiprofesional. Y con sus acelerómetros, su medidor de altitud y todo eso puede guiarse. Recordemos que los vuelos van a ser muy cortos, van a ser vuelos de 90 segundos, o sea, 1 minuto y medio, entonces tampoco se va a alejar mucho. Este helicóptero es un helicóptero que es para probar tecnología. ¿Cómo va a funcionar esto? Bueno, primero, el rover se le abre una tapa y lo deja en el piso marciano. Luego el rover se aleja de allí, y una vez que están lejos se van a comunicar entre ellos y van a establecer su primera comunicación radial separados. Y rover es quien le va a dar la señal de puesta en marcha y vuelo. Obviamente dirigidos desde la Tierra, ¿no? O sea, con un comando anterior en la Tierra.
So, but, and you can probably see where I'm going with this, when you get to the point where it's time to fly that hardware to prove it out in the space environment or on the planetary surface, then the rubber really hits the road in terms of the engineering, and that's where the teams of engineers come into play, and they develop clever solutions to implement the process that's been developed in the lab and package it for spaceflight. So MOXIE faced a lot of challenges. You know what? Once you have to put it on the rover, the size becomes important. It has to fit in a certain volume on the rover. The amount of weight or the mass becomes really important. Every ounce you launch into space takes propellant to move it. So we want to make MOXIE as light as possible. Had to fit within a certain mass budget, or they would have kicked it off the rover.
Yeah. And we're glad you made it on the rover. And just real quick, and without getting too deep into the technical details, how does it convert carbon dioxide to oxygen?
So MOXIE uses a thermal and electrochemical process.
Bueno, sí, Fernando, Fernando nos dice que evidentemente hay mucho secretismo y que se necesita un poco más de apertura. Sí, cada país maneja un poco el secreto de la tecnología espacial a su favor. Lamentablemente, digo, es así como suceden las cosas. Tenés que gastar dinero